News understands that at least two anti-corruption agencies are investigating whether public money from the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, the KSAMC, was used to finance the political campaign activities of some of its representatives, including constituency caretakers. This investigation appears to be a consequence of the fallout between the PNP and its former caretaker of Central Kingston, Lawrence Rowe. Nationwide News has seen and heard conversations involving Rowe, PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell, and an employee of the KSAMC. The conversations raise serious questions about whether the PNP-controlled KSAMC is using the tax dollars of Jamaicans to shore up support for political representatives in its bid to help the PNP retake control of central government. Nationwide News has made several attempts over the last 3 days to provide Dr. Campbell, Lawrence Rowe, and the KSAMC employee opportunities to respond to the allegations. George Davis has this Nationwide News exclusive.
Nationwide News has seen a record of the conversations between Lawrence Rowe and the PNP General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell. One particular conversation happened on December 22, 2024, and began at 7:06 p.m. Rowe, who at the time was the PNP's caretaker in Central Kingston, wrote to Dr. Campbell, quote, "I am beginning to wonder if there is any sincerity towards winning this seat by KSAMC. Let me tell you why." End quote. Rowe then explained to his General Secretary that Christmas work was done in downtown Kingston and he was only able to recommend 2 names to be engaged. Rowe complained that PNP caretakers in West Kingston and other areas were treated better. Rowe then complained that for the Christmas, the KSAMC only sent him $300,000, while the PNP leadership in Northwest St. Andrew received over $500,000. Rowe also lamented to Dayton Campbell that a senior official at the KSAMC, who's also a prominent member of the PNP, was in Central Kingston giving money to some comrades without notifying him. The PNP controls the KSAMC. Dr. Campbell responded, telling Rowe that the monies were allocated strategically in light of the PNP's preparation for 2 by-elections.
I can tell you why that happened. That's because they put more money in the 2 divisions that we're going to have by-elections in. So we're going to have a by-election in Chancery, I'm going to have a by-election in Denham Town. So they put some more money in the 2 divisions that are going to have the by-elections.
Dr. Campbell then sought to reassure Lawrence Rowe that the PNP does indeed take seriously the job of winning Central Kingston in the next general election.
Brother, Central Kingston is a Muslim city. Believe you me when I tell you, Central Kingston is a Muslim constituency. Everybody agrees that if we're going into government, which is our plan, we need Central Kingston. I don't know of nobody that says we can win it.
Nationwide News understands that at least 2 anti-corruption agencies are probing the alleged use of monies for political purposes by the KSAMC leadership with the knowledge of the PNP Secretariat. It's understood that the probe is partly based on claims that several PNP representatives were contacted and told to collect hundreds of thousands of dollars from the KSAMC to use however they deem fit. Our news center has also seen a conversation between Rowe and an officer at the KSAMC, Audrey Smith-Facey. Smith-Facey served as PNP councillor for the Painland Division in Southwest St. Andrew for 23 years. She currently serves on the administrative support team for Kingston's mayor and the chairman of the KSAMC, Andrew Swaby. Her conversation with Rowe appears to support Rowe's claim to Dr. Campbell that he was given $300,000 cash by the KSAMC. On December 17, 2024 at 7:16 p.m., Smith-Facey wrote to Rowe, quote, "$300K, you determine what it is to be used for," end quote. Rowe responded, "Respect." And before closing out that part of the conversation, Smith-Facey told the then PNP caretaker, quote, "Note well, this is not for public knowledge," end quote. George Davis for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, our news center has been making several attempts to get an on-the-record response from the people involved for inclusion into our report. Mahiri Stewart has the details of our extensive efforts to get a comment from the leadership of the People's National Party.
We called Dr. Dayton Campbell's mobile phone 7 times between Tuesday and Wednesday to afford him the opportunity to respond to the matter. He was called 5 times between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 28. On the 5th occasion, he answered the phone but refused to give us a response on the record. We attempted to contact him a further 3 times on Wednesday, January 29. Those calls were placed between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. All 3 calls went to voicemail. On Wednesday evening, Dr. Campbell called our Deputy Executive Editor, George Davis, and spoke with him for 39 minutes. He was asked repeatedly to provide an on-the-record response to the issues raised for inclusion in the report. Dr. Campbell steadfastly refused, saying he would no longer be commenting publicly on any matter concerning Lawrence Rowe. At the end of the conversation, which began at 5:22 p.m., he again refused to entertain a request for an official comment on the record about the issues, despite being on the phone for 39 minutes. We cannot report any of what he said during the conversation because he was adamant that he was off the record. His discussions with Davis was the second off-the-record conversation with our news center. On Tuesday, January 28, he spoke with Ricardo Brooks for 6 minutes and 30 seconds. He also refused our request then to go on the record. Kingston's Mayor Andrew Swaby was called 7 times between Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. 4 calls were placed to his mobile phone on Tuesday between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. Another 3 calls were placed to his mobile phone on Wednesday between 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. All calls went to voicemail. Councillor Facey was contacted 11 times between Tuesday and Thursday. None of the calls were answered. Messages were left with both Facey and Mayor Swaby asking for a return call in relation to the story being pursued. We also attempted to contact Lawrence Rowe by telephone multiple times over the past 3 days. His phone did not even ring. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.